There are a lot of videos out there with names like Cure Your Depression in 5 Minutes, The Secret to a Happy Life Revealed, 7 Happiness Hacks. And these are so good at baiting those clicks because, wow, I want to know. I mean, even if I don't really believe that it's possible to have such quick fixes, I'm just curious to see it anyway because I just want to know, what is this idea? And it seems like there is a part of me that actually really wants to believe that things like this work. I think that's part of everybody, that we have this kind of built-in laziness, this built-in desire for the quick fix, for the quick solution. And it's not entirely a bad thing, because our ability to find quicker ways to do things seems to be behind so much innovation. I like to imagine like the original tools, when there was somebody that was, trying to break open a fruit, and then, he took a rock and he's like, oh, I can break open fruit a lot easier with this rock. Isn't that a shortcut? And there's some brilliant examples of that all the way through the history of invention, just finding faster ways to do things. Take something like, clean up your dirt with a vacuum cleaner. If that had been seen in ancient times, of course, it would have been like pure magic that, how can you remove all the dust from your house in 5 minutes? It seems like some kind of impossible trick, and yet these things were invented. So we naturally want to find easy ways to do things, and I think it's just built into our nature to want that, and it's good to always look for better and smarter ways to do things. I think that these kind of clickbait, they're appealing to a useful part of human nature. But at the same time, it can also be simply laziness, simply the aversion to hard work. It's sort of the dark side of that cleverness, the cleverness that leads us to invent all kinds of things to make our lives easier. The dark side of that cleverness is that feeling of just wanting to outsmart everything in life and just wanting to find a way out of everything that's difficult. So we jump at the chance to have some quick solution, even though we can kind of know, like, it doesn't seem believable. I mean, if it was really possible to have happiness solved in 3 steps, to cure my depression in the length of 1 video, wouldn't that already be done? Wouldn't somebody already have done that? And why are we still talking about it if it was that easy? So we can't really believe that it could be that easy, and yet I still want to believe enough to still investigate this idea and find out what it's about. Now, I think the flip side of this is that in some ways, I believe it is possible to completely change our mindset in a moment. It is possible, and maybe not cure depression or find ultimate happiness, but we can change so much simply by changing our interpretation of what's around us, our interpretation of ourselves especially, how we see ourselves, what story we imagine for our lives. That determines so much of our state of mind. I sometimes like to think about this. Just imagine I could be having the exact same life right now, exact same surroundings, exact same agenda for my day, and yet I could be telling myself a completely different story about it. And that would change how I thought about everything. You can see this easily with the idea of comparing your life to something else. I imagine if I were in prison for years, and then I suddenly got out, and now I have my regular mundane day. Well, this would somehow seem like paradise. This would be amazing to have this day. But of course, I don't think about that when it's just waking up to another mundane day. Or I could imagine that I used to have a life that was so much better, and then I wake up to this, even if it is a great life. If I imagine that I once had something so much better, then it's really hard to appreciate that. And the only difference between those is the story that I tell. It can be a story of, this is so much better than I could imagine, or this is so much worse than I could imagine. You could tell those different stories about the exact same situation. And these kind of changes in stories, changes in how we see ourselves, they can happen in a moment. It can only take a moment for us to change the way we interpret ourselves and our situation. So in that sense, it seems like it really is possible to make this kind of big change within a very short time. But of course, this is something that doesn't come out of nowhere. Yes, we can change our life story and our life perception and interpretation in a moment, but do we? Do we actually do that? How do we actually change these patterns that are built in? And that's where it seems to be the only way to get to that point of the instant transformation is to go through the long, long journey that's far from instant, through all the turns, the grinding, the up and down, the dead ends, the lost wanderings, the course corrections, adjustments, and all the different steps of this very uncertain journey over a long time. And especially just the repetitions of whatever we do, just baking it in by repeating it. That's what leads to these sudden moments where it seems like in an instant our life changes. But all those long hours and days and years are behind that instant. Now, can you get that instant then by watching a 5-minute YouTube video? Well, I can't say it's impossible, but I haven't seen it yet, of course. And in fact, what I see as being the most valuable is this kind of opposite approach, maybe even going too far opposite, where I want the hard work. I want the difficulty. I don't want to be told that everything can be better in a flash. I want to be told that it's going to be a long, hard slog. Embracing the difficulty, embracing the length of the grind, the length and the uncertainty. And yeah, you're going to work very hard. It's going to be painful, uncomfortable, and you have no guarantee of any successful result. Maybe a title like that is not the best clickbait, although maybe that's worth trying too. But somehow that feels more honest to me. And there seems to be some kind of power in being able to accept difficulty without any promise, so that it feels like this is something real, something I can count on. It's not an empty promise. It's not just sales talk. It's like the opposite of sales talk. It's like, here, buy this product. It's going to be painful. It's difficult to use. It will take you a long time to get what you want. And actually, I can't guarantee that you will ever get what you want. Buy this product. That is not a great sales pitch. And maybe that's what makes it extra believable and makes it feel more real. That's something that I can really take hold of. So yeah. Cure your depression in just 50 years, and the 100,000 difficult steps to possible happiness. That sounds more like it.